Okay. If you have any questions as we go along through this webinar, please feel free to type them in the chat. I'll be checking the chat as we go along, or you can wait till the end and there'll be time for questions as well. So let's get started here. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Boris Hertzler. I'm the program manager for the Guam Apex Accelerator. This slide tells you a little bit about what we do. We provide one-on-one counseling as well as group workshops and webinars for anybody that's going after a government contract. So if you're going after a federal government contract or a local government contract, we're here to assist. What we do not assist with is private sector contracts. So we strictly focus on government procurement. We are funded by a grant from the Department of Defense, Office of Small Business Programs, and the University of Guam hosts our program. So our offices are located at the University of Guam inside the School of Business and Public Administration. I'm in room 117, and our procurement counselor, Victoria, is in room 116. So if you need any help, come check us out over at the School of Business at the University of Guam. Some of the highlights of our program: we have over 700 plus active clients in FY24. We'll have FY25 numbers probably in a couple weeks we had all our slides updated. But in FY24, those clients won over $450 million in government contracts and subcontracts. And we've helped a bunch of clients get HubZone certified. That's one of the small business certifications we can assist with. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second here. Some of the partners we work with, we are not the Apex Accelerator, the only Apex Accelerator in the world. We are one of 90 plus Apex accelerators across the nation. Every state has an Apex accelerator. Lots of states have multiple Apex accelerators. So we are part of an alliance known as NAPEX. And when we find out what's the latest and greatest, usually with federal contracting, we then share that with all our clients and our members. So we work quite a bit with the Small Business Development Center. They are funded by SBA, and they are a resource to help you do or help people developing businesses, so starting businesses. So if you're starting a business, expanding a business, maybe you need to put a business plan together to take it to a bank to get a loan, or maybe you need some QuickBooks training or some Excel training, anything related to growing your business. Go see the folks over at the Small Business Development Center. Again, we do not help with those kind of things. We strictly focus on government contracting. And then we work quite a bit with the SBA itself because they have a bunch of small business certification programs that are going on. So if you need help, there's something known as the 8A program, although that one is having a little difficulty right now. But there's the 8A program, there's the HubZone certification, service disabled veteran owned, and woman-owned small business certification. So we can help you with all those certifications as well. Also, there's something known as a mentor protege, small business mentor protege. So if you want to get involved in that, we can assist with that as well. So some of the more on the types of assistance we provide, everything related to government procurement. So start to finish of the procurement process, basically. So if you're, sorry, got some people joining in here. Let me just let them in here. If you're new to government contracting, you have a new company just set up and you want to get involved in government contracting, we can sit down with you, find out what the products and services you're selling are, find out which agencies are buying those products and services, and then we can help you get registered in a system known as SAM, the System for Award Management. To be a federal contractor, you need to be registered in that system. So we can help you with that process. Once you get registered in SAM, we can help you find opportunities. Contract opportunities are also listed in SAM. So we can show you how to do searches for those things and the best way to search so you don't miss things. Once you find an opportunity you're interested in, we can show you how to respond to the RFQ or how to respond to the RFP, the request for quote or the request for proposal. We can't obviously price your quote for you, and we can't write your proposal for you, but we can give you tips and suggestions like, include this in your proposal, don't include that, that kind of thing. So we can be another set of eyes to review your proposal and help you craft it, basically. And then win or lose on your proposal or quote, you're entitled to a debrief in the federal system, so we can help you with that process. Although you're entitled to one, you do need to request it, so we can show you how to do that. And it's, depending on the complexity of the solicitation and the contract. Debriefs can be very simple, or they can be a PowerPoint presentation that explains all your strengths and weaknesses of your proposal, which is something you definitely want to have, win or lose, because you want to know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And especially on the things you're doing wrong, how to fix them for the next RFP or RFQ that you're going after. So we can help you with all that, start to finish of the procurement process. No charge for our services. It's all paid with your tax dollars. Like I said, we are funded by a grant from DoD OSBP. So please take advantage of our services. We're here to assist you. All right. So that being said, let's get started with our webinar today. Like I said, this is being recorded. Will be posted on our YouTube channel this afternoon. Everybody who attends will get a link to that recording as well as a copy of these actual slides. So if you have any questions, like I said earlier, please type them in the chat or wait till the end. There'll be time for questions. All right, so today we're going to talk about improving. Oh, before we get to that, I forgot about this slide. This is our contact information. So that's our website, guamapex.com. If you have any and know any other companies that could use our help, please direct them to our website. That's where they can sign up as a client. It's all free again. It's all paid for with your tax dollars. So they can please direct them there. There's our contact information, phone numbers, email addresses. And then we also have Facebook and LinkedIn pages. So if you are on Facebook or LinkedIn, please follow and like our pages. And then our YouTube channel, all our webinars are recorded and posted there. So if you missed a webinar, if you have another procurement related topic you're interested in and you don't see it on our website coming up anytime soon, go to our YouTube channel, Guam Apex. Just type that in YouTube and it'll direct you to our channel. You can see all our videos there. And every time we do a new recording of a familiar topic or like this recording today will replace our previous defense industrial base recording. So it's always updated with the latest recordings. All right, now we can continue on. So let's talk about defense industrial base. There was a document put out in 2023 known as the National Defense Industrial Strategy. If you haven't read that document, you should probably Google it and read it. It's a good foundation of where things are. And then in 2025, there were some additions made to it by this current administration, which kind of builds on this and how they want to, what the strategy is to make sure the defense industrial base is up to par and is able to protect America and its assets. So, let's go through this a little bit. A little history on Department of Defense or Department of War, as it's called now, and the Defense Industrial Base. So, World War II, U.S. and industries helped fight against the Axis powers, right? And then also helped deter against the Soviet Union during the Cold War. After the Cold War, we saw a lot of our production capacity decrease. Supply chains moved overseas, right? It's cheaper labor in other countries, basically, is what it was. Less regulations. And so a lot of businesses decided, hey, let's make stuff in other places. So manufacturing went down, and that was a detriment to the defense industrial base. China has risen because of that. They're a global powerhouse now. They can do a lot of more manufacturing than the United States and Europe and all the other Asian allies combined. Although that is changing a little bit, but that's where we stand right now. In COVID, I think COVID was a time that showed that the weakness of our supply chain and also our defense or just the industrial base in general, the domestic industrial base. We had a lot of dependence on foreign nations to make products during this pandemic. And we saw what happens when interruptions happen in supply lines. So there needs to be a way to make sure this doesn't happen again. Ukraine invasion also saw some different industrial demands. A bunch of military equipment had to be produced, and which kind of, made the Department of War go, hey, how come we don't have all this stuff already made? What's going on here? So this led to some eye-opening things, and that's why you got that 2023 document that I showed you earlier and the 2025 document that added to it, which I'm not sure if we have a slide on that or not, but so America's the National Defense and industrial base, basically, we recognize that America's economic security and national security are mutually reinforcing. The industrial base is tied to defense. That's the big thing here. That's the big takeaway from this. So if your industrial base is strong and you can manufacture everything you need for your country, or most of the main things you need for your country, you can defend your country pretty well. And that's the point here. So defense is also dependent on economic strength. So there's a bunch of policies in place. We're going to talk about a couple of those policies today to help with this. EO 14017 came out, I believe this was during Biden's time. Yep. Was it? Oh, no, this is maybe during the first. No, this is during Biden's time, yeah. And it was to strengthen the American supply chains. This was right in the middle of COVID. So this was talking about how we can do this and make sure that America's supply chains are strengthened. And when this was issued, the Department of Defense obligated over close to $900 million to use the Defense Production Act. And that's a big thing we're going to talk about today. This is what's used quite a bit to make sure the industrial base has everything it needs. And they divided it into five crucial sectors: kinetic capabilities, microelectronics, energy storage and batteries, strategic and critical materials, castings, and forgings. Um, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go as well. So DoD is going to address these technological challenges with initiatives such as IBAS, which is the Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment Program. We'll talk a little bit more about them when we get further down the road here. And so that's basically a think tank is what they are. And they plan on building a modernized industrial base that includes prime subs, provide equipment and services, new developers, technology. So we're going to include academia in this, research labs, government-owned manufacturing centers, things like that, contractor-operated facilities. There's all kinds of different ways the government is looking at to help increase the readiness of the defense industrial base. So, four long-term priorities are resilient supply chains, workforce readiness, flexible acquisition, economic deterrence. Resilient supply chains is what we're going to be concentrating on with this webinar. Workforce readiness is a big thing too. You see that quite a bit on Guam. There's a lot of workforce training. GCC does quite a lot of that. Flexible acquisition, that's happening a lot in this administration as well. The traditional, firm fixed price contracts. I mean, there's still quite a lot of that happening, especially in the construction industry. But when it comes to buying weapon systems and buying technology and things like that, they're going to be more flexible in how they acquire these things. In fact, they're trying to get more things commercialized, so you don't have to have all this modification done for the Department of Defense. And it took a while for this to happen. It took decades for the defense industrial base to shrink after the Cold Wars, when manufacturing basically moved offshore and returning it back onshore. You hear that word onshoring a lot. That's what it means. It's just basically bringing manufacturing back to the United States. It's going to take a while as well. It's not going to happen overnight. So this is a long-term strategy. So. These are the actions to achieve resilient supply chains. So they want to incentivize industry to improve resilience by investing in extra capacity. We'll talk a little bit more about what these incentives are coming up on the next few slides. They want to manage inventory and stockpile planning to decrease. There are certain things we need to stockpile. I'm sure we've all heard of the oil stockpile we have in the United States, and sometimes that gets you the strategic oil reserve, they call it, sometimes, or petroleum reserve. Sometimes that gets depleted. I think some of that was depleted during the COVID time, and it needs to be replenished. But you just need to have that supply on hand because, I mean, everything runs on oil still, and you need to have that as part of your long-term protection of your country, basically. Continuing to expand support for domestic production. That's the big thing. We want to produce more inside the U.S., expand the supplier base, invest in new production methods. They're always looking for some new technologies to get things done in a more economic and also in more environmentally safe way. That is the usual idea here when it comes to new production methods. Leverage data analytics to improve sub-tier visibility to identify and minimize strategic plan. So this is basically using data. This is the big AI thing to basically predict what's going to happen and try to manage that so it doesn't negatively affect the U.S. engage allies and partners to expand global defense production and increase supply chain resilience. We've seen that quite a bit, especially with this administration. I think NATO is a good example of increasing their funding to that organization, the different countries that are involved. And so that kind of thing is going on. Improving the foreign military sales process and enhance industrial cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a huge thing that's happening right now. In fact, the Department of Defense, which is, and this is my opinion here, is this might be actually a little detrimental to improving the readiness of the defense industrial base, is the CMMC thing that's going on with Department of Defense and Department of War. There, you know, there's three levels to CMMC. If you're not familiar with this, it's basic cybersecurity that needs to be practiced by anybody who wants to be a Department of Defense contractor or subcontractor. They have to be practicing these. They call them these 15 different practices, making sure they're protecting their some contract information from the hands of people who should not have that information. And so they need to be doing these 15 basic things. And for some small businesses, it's a little difficult, could be a little costly. And still in my mind, again, my opinion, I think that's going to be a little detrimental to this whole endeavor here to protect the supply chain. I can see the need for it, but the way it's going, it might hurt, and we actually might see less small businesses get involved in federal contracting because of the whole CMMC thing. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. All right. So what is the defense industrial base, basically? It's a network. It's people, organizations, resources, anything, any business, any organization, anything that's providing Department of Defense with related materials, products, and services. So there's companies involved, there's nonprofits involved, there's research centers involved, universities, government-owned facilities, all kinds of things involved. And this goes providing from everything from large weapon systems. We're building a huge missile defense system on Guam, to smaller commercial products and routine services, that you can buy, commercial products you can buy off the shelf, routine services like landscaping services, maintenance services, yeah, security services, basic things that every business or organization uses, basically. So covers a whole spectrum of all kinds of things the defense industrial base. But the whole point is it enables the United States to execute national strategy and develop, maintain, and project military power. That's the point of the defense industrial base. Millions of workers, over 100,000 companies involved in this. This is the commercial sector of the defense industrial base. And so my whole point of the CMMC that I was talking about, my opinion on that was that I think that might hurt those 100,000 plus companies, and you might see that reduced a little bit. The biggest categories where the commercial sector and the defense industrial base are ship, aircraft building, weapon systems, obviously. That's what a military is all about. And then professional services, commercial items, construction. Construction is what you see a lot on Guam. That's what's happening right now with the Marine Corps base being built, Camp Laws, and logistics and admin support services. These companies are known as the Big Five. They receive about 30% of all the Department of Defense contracting funds. It's probably a little higher than that. But Lockheed Martin, RTX, which is Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman. So those are the big boys. That's the big commercial sector of the defense industrial base. Obviously, there's other parts involved in the commercial sector as well. There's the other large businesses, which specialize in production of specific systems, shipbuilders, logistics services, technology. Tons of small businesses involved, thousands and thousands of small businesses involved. They're the ones doing all the critical parts, new technology, new services, and they fortify the small supply chain in times of crisis. There's a great report you can read from the Congressional Research Service where they talk about the background of the defense industrial base and any issues going on. So there's also, besides the commercial sector of the defense industrial base, there's the nonprofit or public sector. And they do a lot of the R&D, research and development, the testing and evaluation of systems, and maintenance of systems. There are three things we're going to talk about next here. There's different kinds of these nonprofit public sectors. So the first one, we're going to FFRDCs, which are federally funded research and development centers. And this is used when usually long-term research and it's not something that a bunch of contractors can do. If you want more information, maybe you know somebody who's into this or somebody who is can do R&D research or is maybe looking for help with R&D research. You can go to this website. I'm going to jump over to the internet now so you can see this website. Where is my internet? There it is. So here's the master government list. You should be seeing the internet right now. I'll have go give it a second to load up on your screens, but this is the master government list of federally funded R&D centers. Now this information it's almost a year old. They haven't updated the site in a while, and that's because I probably has something to do with the change in administration, the change of Department of Defense and Department of War, and getting all the websites to link up and things like that. But this is where you can find out what research centers are out there, R&D centers, and then see if they line up with whatever trying to invent. And this kind of ties in with we do a whole webinar on science and technology programs, SBIR, which is the Small Business Innovative Research, STTR, which is Small Business Technology Transfer Program. And these are basically programs designed for people who are creating things, new products, new ideas, maybe even new services that the government could use, as well as could be brought to commercialization. The government will fund you. They will give you money to do the research and development, and through these other programs that we're not talking about on this webinar, they will actually it's like three phases. They will actually give you money to think of the product and then bring a prototype into existence. They could fund all of that for you. And you can do that with the help of these research laboratories. So that's something you can do. So if you know any inventors out there or people who are into have an idea for a new product or service that the government can use, and it doesn't have to be just Department of Defense. There's all things related to energy and the environment, all kinds of things. So you can check out these centers here and find out if they do anything related to what you want to do. Okay. And that's a great way to help improve the readiness of the defense industrial base. So there's also university affiliated research centers. So these are nonprofits with engineering. So again, similar to what we saw earlier. Let me show you this website. It's actually from Wikipedia, this one, because there's no like list on a government website, but there's all different things here. So here are the current centers. You have the Air Force has some centers, or a center. The Army has a few. The Missile Defense Agency doesn't look like they have a link to anything here. But you might want to just go see if go to Utah State's Space Dynamics Laboratory, Space Force, Navy. So it's broken down into the different parts of DoD. So, okay. There's also DoD laboratories, which support defense system acquisition and deployed forces. Let's look at these. And this is a lot of people probably don't know about this, but let me scroll up to the top of this website here. So, innovate the Defense Innovation Marketplace. So again, like I said, the government will fund your R&D all the way up to the point of making a prototype. Um, and if it looks like your product's good and it gets to commercialization, not only will you still own the patent rights and will you still own the technology, but basically the government help you pay to bring it into existence, and they'll probably buy it from you too, and you'll get a contract from that, whatever it is, whatever product you're trying to invent here. So there's all Department of Defense, all the different, Navy, Army, Air Force. They all have different research centers and different areas, and there's a bunch of links here to them. But I just want to highlight this one here, this U.S. Army Research Development Engineering Command. And I could click on it and open it, but I already opened it up, so I'm just gonna click this other tab here. This is what this looks like, and basically it shows you that in this case, the Army this is their command structure. This is how different units of the Army report to different areas. And then they all have these different things. So there's a material command, there's training command, Western Hemisphere command, so all these different things. Cyber command, USA Cyber. So I saw something down here earlier. Here we go. Yeah. The U.S. Army Pacific. So, I mean, we're in the Pacific area. Was this the one I wanted to look at? Yeah, this is the one I wanted to look at. So if we click on this link here, Usually they'll have a thing here about their team. There's all these little tabs here, but usually there's an industry tab on these things, and usually that leads to something. Hopefully this does too. All right. So anytime you want to think that, hey, man, this product you're inventing or this thing that you have or this new way of doing something you have that can help the defense industrial base, you might want to see which part of the armed forces would be interested in that. And one way of doing that is by going to these different labs, and they'll usually have this a little tab on their website that says industry. That's you. That's the vendors, the contractors. And so then you'd click that tab, and then they'll tell you, okay, here's what you can do. So this here they want you to have a capability. So if your industry engagement includes a capability statement, please complete the capability submission form below and submit it to here. And so you just go down here and start doing that. There's a capability submission form right here. I'm going to click it. I didn't click it before, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. Oh, so here we go. So there's a form you got to fill out, and then you could send it to them, and it'll probably lead to, if everything goes well, some kind of demonstration that you can provide to them. So another opportunity to help improve the readiness of the defense industrial base. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint here. Again, part of the nonprofit public sector of the defense industrial base are DoD ranges, test facilities. This is where they demonstrate new technologies. I'm sure we've heard of all the secret ones, like down in Area 51 and S4. But that's what those are. Those are ranges and test facilities. Now, there's government-owned production maintenance facilities. That's where they produce conventional ammunition, maintenance weapon systems, and of course the stockpiles. And we mentioned the strategic oil reserves. I'm sorry, the strategic petroleum reserves, but there's all kinds of different stockpiles of different things in different areas across the United States. So it's all part of the defense industrial base. Now, to make sure the defense industrial base is growing the way they want, to make sure the programs they have in place are doing what they want to increase the readiness, there's something known as the IBAS, which is the industrial base. And I'm sorry for all the acronyms, but that's just the government. There's tons of acronyms. So, Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment Program. So, there's a fund that was set up by 10 USC 4817 that basically funds this program. They're the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition controls the fund. And the fund is used to monitor and assess the defense industrial base to address critical issues, expand the defense industrial base, and address supply chain vulnerabilities. So there is money set aside to do this. Many other federal agencies are also involved in the oversight, but DoD is primarily responsible for managing it. The Undersecretary of Defensive Acquisition is responsible for the policies and also the fund, as we saw earlier. And then the Assistant Secretary for Industrial Base Policy is the Chief Advisor. So again, that's why I said this is kind of like a think tank. It's a group of people who they have their policy laid out, and they want to make sure that the programs that are in place are actually doing what they're supposed to do, which is improving the readiness of the defense industrial base. They put out a newsletter. I was hoping there to be a new version. There was an April one, there was a July one, and that's the last one I've seen. There hasn't been one after July. So hopefully they put out another one. But if you can download this newsletter at this link, and you can read about it and find out what's going on with industrial base policy and how they want to keep the industrial base as strong as possible. One way they do that is they use something known as the Defense Production Act. This is started a while ago, 1950, and it allows the president to have authority and to ensure domestic industry can meet national defense requirements. And national defense is defined as including energy production, stockpiling, and infrastructure assistance to foreign nations. So building up other countries that have, I guess, that are on the same page as we are, is probably how that's going to work. There used to be 7 sections to the Defense Production Act. Now it's down to 3. The one we're concerned about in this presentation is Title III, and we'll talk about that in the next few slides here. The current Defense Production Act, this actually expired in September 30. The continuing resolution, I don't believe it actually funded it. It actually needs to be reauthorized by Congress. So hopefully that happens, which I think is going to happen towards the end of this month. They're going to have to do something again. So hopefully they throw some money into this Defense Production Act. but there is funding coming from different sources that is being thrown into the Defense Production Act. We'll talk about that in a little second here. All right. So Title III is, like I said, what we were interested in. This like allows the president to assist with expansion of capacity and supply. And they do this using incentives for manufacturers or new businesses or yeah, and manufacturing, existing manufacturers or people that want to get into manufacturing. We'll talk about that again on the next few slides here. So incentives, they stimulate private investment. So always looking at getting more companies involved in the defense industrial base through the Defense Production Act here. And of course, the objective, expand, sustain production capacity. There are vital minerals, vital technologies, vital oil is another thing, vital products that that we need to manufacture ourselves and have stockpiles of. So ensuring U.S. government access to technology and resources, ensuring long-term commercial viability. So the incentives used to involve industry to get more private companies involved in this, loans, loan guarantees, purchase commitments. This happens quite a bit, going back to the SBIR and STTR programs, where you can basically get the government to fund um, a prototype for you of whatever you want to invent. That's when they'll throw out these purchase commitments, basically. And so there's guaranteed demand. You will be able to sell that product once you create it. Direct subsidies, another way they can do it. They can support engineering, just flat out grants. So they just give you the money. You never have to pay it back. That's a possibility. So it's all kinds of different incentives involved to get companies involved in the Defense Production Act. So where does the funding come from? There is an account, but like I said earlier, the funding did stop on the end of the fiscal year, last fiscal year, and it hasn't been reappropriated yet. But here's some basic data on the recent appropriations to the fund. You can see it jumps all over the place. But you can see in 2020, a lot went in there. And that was during the COVID time. So, Secretary of Defense is the fund manager. I guess that would be Secretary of War now. Here's some recent uses of DPA, of the Defense Production Act, Title III. COVID response was the big use of it, to try to get get people on board too. Usually it was the PPE, right? The protective equipment, personal protective equipment, and things like that. But also strategic materials, electronics, chips is a big thing, chemicals, and then you have some other things, electric heat pumps. That's interesting to me. I'm surprised that's up there like that, but missiles and munitions. So all kinds of things involved. Here we'll look at some actual awards. These were recent uses of the Defense Title III. So in December, just last month, 32 plus million awarded to two companies and to accelerate solid rocket motor production. In fact, if you go and look at them, you can go to the defense.gov website and look under news releases and just kind of scan through them. And there was quite a bit related to solid rocket motor production even before December. So definitely space and things related to getting things into space at a more economical price is a priority for the U.S. government. November 25, they had almost 30 million awarded for a facility, for a company to just set up a facility, a demonstration facility to separate gallium and scandium. I don't know what those two things are, but apparently they're important and you can get them from industrial waste. So they're doing that. September 25, the onshore antimony trisulfide production. Again, I have no idea what that stuff is, but it's something, it's got to be some kind of material that we need. Expand germanium and silicon optics production, develop scandium alloy supply chain. So scandium seems to be pretty important. So if you're in the minerals business, if you're in the mining business, if you're anything related to alloys and critical minerals, when we've heard all this, that China pretty much has a monopoly on the rare earth minerals. And so we just need to do more in the U.S. and the U.S. government will fund you to help you do that, to help you get more of it into the domestic in pipeline, basically. And so that helps our defense industrial base. Here are some older uses, awards. So these all happened in 2019, 2021, 22, 23. Again, a lot of it's related to rare earth and mining and things like that. But you can see in the middle of the chart here, there was COVID-19. And a lot of these, when they want to, keep money, put money aside, they put limits on it. COVID did not have a limit. All kinds of things. So rare earth we see here. We see unmanned aerial systems. Munitions is a big one. That was the Ukraine war. We saw, oh boy, we don't have enough bullets and bombs, so we need to make more. We need to incentivize private businesses to make more of those. Submarine industrial base production. What else we got here? Air breathing engines, advanced avionics, all kinds of things. Circuit boards, packaging, so all kinds of stuff. So the mission of the Defense Production Act Title III is pretty much similar to all the different the IBAS mission and everything as it is part of IBAS. But ensure resilient domestic, robust supply chains, reduce reliance on foreign manufacturing. That's the whole point of all of this. Correct domestic shortfalls, protect the domestic supply chains, enhance national security. Again, a strong economy also leads to strong national security. So, okay. How does it accomplish its mission? So again, it partners with DoD, other agencies, and industry. The big thing is industry. We need defense industrial base needs more players in it. It needs industry to get involved, and they do that with the incentives, right? They incentivize using grants, loans, all kinds of things, contracts to get more companies involved. Um, the DPA Title III office also identifies gaps in critical industrial capacity. So partners with private industry to fill those gaps. Kind of repetitive there, but that's what they do. So how do they do this is the question. How do you get involved with this? Well, you got to go to sam.gov. That's where the opportunity is. Looks like this. So this is if you just Google, if you get into SAM and you go to the contracting section and you just put DPA Title 3 or just put DPA even, you'll see this announcement here. Is there anything more on this? No, that's it. Okay, so let me just show you what it looks like on SAM because I have it queued up here. Dun, dun, dun. Is that it? That's not it. Here we go. All right, so like I said, you go to SAM, you go to contracting. You don't have to log in. I'm not even logged in. This is all public information. And I go to contract opportunities, and then I'm just going to put DPA. I'm just going to put DPA title like that. And it's going to do a search. And there you go. There's our Defense Production Act Title III funding announcement. Oh, okay. So is there funding for this? Is the question. I don't think there is, but yeah. So basically, it tells you responses are due no later than July 12th, 2026. And this is a pre-solicitation. So this just means it's a notice saying, hey, there's something out here. You might want to take a look at it. Now, this goes through a white paper process, and the first line tells you right here, in addition to the below changes, please note that submission and acceptance of white papers remain suspended until further notice. And why is that? That's because there's no funding in here yet. So. Once this thing gets funded, hopefully by the end of January, when I think there has to be a new continuing resolution, and this time they actually fund the Defense Production Act, then you'll be able to submit white papers. So it's a white paper process. Basically, you have an idea, you submit the white paper based on whatever your idea is. They review the white papers. If it looks like it's something that is critical to the needs of the domestic industrial or the defense industrial base, or even just the domestic supply chains, right? Maybe it's a stockpiling thing that we need, or it's a material or a critical mineral or a rare earth mineral, something like that. Um, they'll look at it. If they like the proposal, they'll work with you to get it funded through the Defense Production Act. So that's what it is basically. So it's kind of like responding to a solicitation in SAM, except this solicitation, right, in SAM will tell you basically how to write your proposal. It'll have everything in there. This is a little more difficult because it's a white paper, meaning it's like you have an idea for something and you got to put it on paper and convince them that it's feasible to do this. So okay. So that's how that works. That's how you get involved with the Defense Production Act. Now, because they want more companies involved in the defense industrial base, and a lot of companies are not just in the United States, and a lot of companies that are in the U.S. also have foreign partners. You have to kind of worry about something known as FOCI, which is the Foreign Ownership Control or Influence. 32 CFR 117.11. CFR is the Code of Federal Regulations. Um, Talks about this. But basically, this is safeguarding classified information. So if maybe you get some funding from the Defense Production Act to do some kind of processing of a rare earth mineral that's going to turn it into an alloy that is needed by the Department of Defense, and it might be something that they want to keep classified, then this is where this is going to kick in. Um, and the other thing, the more common thing where this kicks in is when you're applying for a facilities clearance, which there are some companies on Guam that have facilities clearance. There are some places on the bases here that you are required to have a facilities clearance to get in. So that's when this kind of also comes into play. We'll talk about that a few slides down the road here, but basically, safeguarding of classified information is the key here. That's what this is all about. So, when you have foreign investors, foreign partners, foreign relationships, foreign entanglements, with other companies, or maybe your company is a portion or a part or a subsidiary or a foreign company, FOCI was definitely going to come into play. And you got to think about this if you're handling classified information. That's what this applies to. So, um, let's look at this. So when do they think a U.S. company is potentially under FOCI? So that remember, FOCI is foreign ownership or control or influence. So when a foreign company has power over the management or operations that can lead to unauthorized access to classified material. So there doesn't necessarily have to be an on paper relationship like, okay, this foreign company owns 20% of this domestic company. It's just if there is a power, if there's a possible power over management. And power can be done different ways. We'll look at that coming up here shortly. Foreign companies exercising or could exercise power via stock purchases, contracts, or board appointments. Loans is another big thing. Maybe you have a loan with a foreign company or even a foreign government. If that's going on and they call your loan and you don't have the money to pay for it, they might say, hey, well, we want to see some information then. So that's a possibility. So what factors determine if a U.S. company is under FOCI? They're going to look at your company. So the U.S. government will look at your company. They'll associate any foreign interested, or they'll look at all any foreign interests you have. You're related to any other foreign companies or foreign governments. And then they're going to consider those foreign companies and the foreign governments. They're going to look at their espionage record, a history of enforcement actions, those companies' compliance with U.S. laws, any kind of security agreements in place. I mean, some countries, no problem. Other countries could be a problem. So, and ownership percentages. If you're found to be under foreign ownership or control or influence, then you're going to have to figure out a way to reduce that. But your company will, since the goal here is to protect classified information, your company will no longer be eligible for access to classified information until there's some kind of mitigation of the FOCI. So classified information includes restricted data, sensitive compartmented information. You ever hear that term SCIF when Congress will say, "Oh, we all went into a SCIF and they briefed us on something." That's what a SCIF is. It's a sensitive compartmented information facility. Basically, that's where they get to hear and read these documents that are usually classified. So and security clearances. So this is what I was talking about. This is where FOCI comes into play. So what they use is a form. Of course, the government loves their forms. So there's an SF328, and that's used to evaluate whether your company has any FOCI going on. So let me show you what that form looks like. I'm going to jump over to a PDF, wherever my PDFs are. Here we go. Uh, This should be loading up on your screens. Let me make it a little bigger. Should I go one more bigger? I think that was two more. All right. So, This is a form you use that will be used by, I mean, let's say you were trying to get a contract with for Anderson Air Force Base to do some work in a facility that has classified information. And so they need to make sure that you are not under any foreign ownership, control, or influence, or FOCI. So you would be filling out this form to get that clearance to enter that facility. And this form basically is a bunch of yes and no questions. And if you answer yes to any of these questions, there's a good chance you're going to be considered under FOCI. So you can see some of the questions. Do any foreign persons directly or indirectly own or have beneficial ownership of 5% or more? Does your organization directly or indirectly through your subs own 10% or more of any foreign interests? So they really want to make sure um, that there's no FOCI going on. So just go through here, and then there's a place in here, there's a remarks at the end where you can explain what's going on. And then this would be given to your they call it the CSO, I believe, the Cognizant Security Officer of. So if an Anderson, it would be an Air Force person. If you're doing this for the Navy base, it would be a Navy person. So, um, and that's what the form looks like. I just want to show you that. And for a lot of people, I mean, you're never going to have to do this. This is just for, like I said, companies that are looking for that'll be dealing with classified information and need a security clearance or facilities clearance. So yeah, like I said, if you answer yes, the Cognizant Security Agency will make a risk-based determination of your eligibility. So if they find again that you're under FOCI, what mitigation measures can a company use? So they got to find out what's the reason for the FOCI. So if you have a loan with a foreign company or a foreign government, maybe you got to modify that loan agreement. Reduce your income from foreign sources, eliminate foreign debt. Yeah, because remember, anytime you owe somebody something, that can be used as some kind of, for lack of a better word, blackmail type of material. Set up a executive level security committee just to make sure that nobody that is not supposed to have access to classified information gets access. Have a board resolution in place. There's security control agreements, special security agreements, all kinds of things. And these terms, you can all look it up on the website, which I'll give you shortly here. And then you got to provide annual updates. So this is only if they find that, hey, it looks like you are under FOCI. So you got to mitigate this. Additional things you can do, have a technology control plan. So have some kind of plan in place that prevents non-US citizens from accessing unauthorized information. You can have something known as an ECP, electronic communications plan, where you separate electronics and networks from foreign interests. So maybe if you are part of maybe you are involved with a foreign company, you're not sharing the same network, you're not sharing the same databases, you're not sharing the same customer, what do they call them? Customer service software, things like that. It's all separate. Affiliated operations plan specifies control of affiliated operations by delineating what foreign interests can control. So that's something you can do. Facilities location plan. And basically, this is for, in general, a U.S. company cannot co-locate with a foreign parent or affiliate. Again, with respect to classified information. If you don't have any classified information going on in your company or anything like that, none of this is going to apply to you. You might go, well, this probably doesn't apply to me at all. Well, when you do look at Sam here. I just want to share some pieces of. I'll get to this. Something pop in the chat there. I'll get to that in a second here. But believe it or not, you have already been answering questions related to FOCI because Sam has some questions related to FOCI. When you're filling out your SAM registration, the question 40 says, "Is your company effectively owned or controlled by a foreign government?" And if it's yes, then you would have to disclose more about your company. And the reason for this question is because of DFARS 252-209, 7002, which says no contract under a national security program may be awarded to a company controlled by a foreign government. So let me just look at this question here that popped in the chat if my mouse will cooperate. Oh, okay. Happy New Year to you. Thanks. Um, Some more questions related to FOCI and SAM. The next four questions in SAM are all related to shooting satellites into space. And that's because of another DFARS clause. DFARS is the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement. So there's a bunch of rules and laws that pertain to how the federal government can purchase things, which is known as the Federal Acquisition Regulation, the FAR. And then the Department of Defense has a supplement that they do. Almost every agency has their own, well, the bigger agencies have their own supplements, but the defense has a supplement known as the DFARS where they can tighten up those rules and make them more stringent for their department. And so theirs is known as the DFARS. But basically, they're saying, yeah, no satellite services are allowed from a company affiliated with a covered foreign country, and a covered foreign country means Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. So basically, if you want to make with respect to FOCI, foreign ownership control influence, you got to protect classified information. That's pretty much a no-brainer there. And if it's found that you are under FOCI, you got to mitigate the risk. You have to get out of it, basically. There's a form known as an SF328, which is used to measure that level. And if a contractor is found to be under FOCI, they got to have plans in place to, like I said, get out of it. There's a bunch of site info at the FOCI site here. I think I had that loaded up. Let me jump to the internet. Um, yeah, here we go. So this is all at the DCSA, which is the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency. And you can find everything here related to FOCI. So they have this whole FOCI section here. And then on the right, they talk about it and what it means. There's updates. There's the newest SF3TA. There's a white paper, or not an information paper, basically on how to fill out the form. And if you have any questions, you can send them a question. So, and then they have their FAQs down here, which are always good to read. So, okay. I think that may be the last slide. Yeah, I'm going to open up the questions. If anybody has any questions. Something just happened. I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. Let's do that. We'll stop the share. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. No questions. Going once, going twice. All right. If there's no questions, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Hopefully, I didn't put everyone to sleep. It's a tough webinar to do because it's just information, tons of information. But I do see something popping up here. Let me just see if there's anything in the chat. Oops. My computer is just not cooperating today. No questions. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, thanks everyone for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll make sure to get a copy of this to everyone who attended. Next week, what are we doing?
Government innovation programs.
Okay, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, the SBIR program and the TTR program, where the government will basically fund your R&D and your prototype. That's what we're going to talk about next week, how those programs work and how you can get involved. And some others, so those are known as GIPs, basically government innovation programs. And we'll be talking more about, there's other ones besides those two. And so we'll talk about the different ones. So join us next week at 10 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.